So let's have a look at our next VCR. And this one is this Sony SLC9UB. So what do we have? Obviously we've got the VCR, we have the remote control, we have the user manual, and remnants of what I think is the original packing polystyrene. So we'll move that out of the way, that will be useful to keep when it's in storage. There we go. And out we come. Oh, there it is. So, we're not going to power this one on immediately because there are a couple of items that I want to check, and also I want to knock the camera around at the same time. There's a couple of items I want to check. If I move my box out of the way, move this cable, put the unit down, there we go. And there we have one C9, SLC9UB to be exact. UB because it's a UK model. So this is apparently based on the 711D chassis, and you could think of it as a non-portable Sony SLF1, which was the equivalent portable model but without linear stereo. They share the same deck as far as I know, and they have a broadly similar feature set. This will also, so there's a PCM switch on the back, sort of line or PCM. This will also hook up to the Sony SL PCM F1, I think it's called. So you can use this to record CD quality sound using the video heads. It's quite clever actually, and the quality is incredibly good. It is CD quality sound. And as a unit, they're actually quite sought after these days, which might be why values of the C9 are quite high as well, because the unit works with either the F1 or the C9. So this is inside. Now I can immediately see a couple of capacitors that I'll probably want to pay some attention to, and that's these two. They don't look like they have actually splodged anywhere. Under here we have other parts of the power supply. There is a bridge rectifier, pretty much exactly the same one as found in the SLF1 actually. See if we can get a shot of that down there. Yeah, so there's the rectifier, exactly the same one as found in the F1. Little transformer. So this is basically the mains coming in, rectified to DC, and then it goes on to this section, which is under this cover here, the heatsink on the back, where it goes into the rest of the unit. And possibly one of the first things I want to do is to get this out and have a look at it. Although to be honest, I'm doing a visual inspection of these capacitors. There's nothing that looks like they've splodged anywhere, which is good. What I do want to do is I really would like to get this out of the machine to take a look at it. So let's have a look at how it's fastened and fitted into the unit. So we've got screw, 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 and screws on the back, and it looks like it comes out as potentially a whole affair. It slides out of the chassis. There is over here a battery backup. Now they do tend to die with age, but thankfully it doesn't seem to have leaked anywhere at all, so that is good. I am going to leave it where it is. There really isn't any use to remove it if it hasn't splodged everywhere. But I wouldn't mind getting a further look at this PSU, to be honest with you. Problem is, there is an awful lot in here that is attached to it. So let's be careful with this, and let's start with these two screws down here. Need to be wary of this one, as it's holding in a little conduit as well for the wiring. Probably tuck that to one side like so, just to keep that out of the way. This one, oh, darn it, that one's gone down inside the unit. So that is that one. Let's remove these couple on the back. Do I need to remove those couple on the back? Yes, I think I do. Or do I? Yes, I think I do. So a couple on the side here that I'm just moving out the way. And one down the bottom here. It's proving easier said than done, that one. It's proving quite tricky actually. Okay, we'll leave that for a second. So where does it leave us with getting this out? So certainly movement. Don't think it's held in underneath anywhere at all. One thing I will do actually, I've just noticed this could come loose at any point, so let's reach in and grab this little cable tie off, and we'll also lose the screw as well. Yeah, that's going well so far. That's why I want to definitely need to get this out now so I can take a look at the capacitors, but also get those blooming screws out of the way. Now, looking at this, snip on there, and I can probably move that off. So, if I just snip this out of the way. And move this screw there. Connector here, so I don't know if you can see that. Basically just behind this capacitor here there is a connector that comes out of this little power supply module, and I should be able to tease that out of the way. There we go. So effectively that pretty much isolates this power module from the rest of the deck, and what should happen theoretically is it should come out. So I probably need to take these two screws, just show you, these two screws here out, because that's holding in this mounting bracket. There we go. It's getting closer, definitely. Although it still seems to be... it does look like this board comes out with it in that case. So I'll need to remove this one. So there's one down here that we need to get rid of. We'll just move. And note that there is a little earthing cable on that one as well, so we'll need to be aware of that when we put it back together. And as you can see, that's beginning to move a lot more freely now. Ideally, probably want to unplug each of these. So because I'm videoing this, I'm not going to take a photo because I will have it on tape. So if I get lost, I can just go back, not on tape, I've got it recorded, so I can just go back and Oh, that's a piece of sweat. It's very hot in here today. Try not to sweat into your machines because it's salt water and that's not very good. Okay, so that's those out the way. That is almost ready to give way, except that one troublesome screw I was having issues with. Let's see if I can sort that out. So I've got an appropriate screwdriver, but when I try to just rounds it off. Right. That's not going to work, or hasn't worked yet. That's working. Ow. It's pinching. That's a troublesome little screw. Need to keep an eye on that. And by eye, I mean probably have to replace it. And there we go. That's nearly there now. So, what we should be able to do, theoretically, is lift this out wholesale. And looking at it, there is a... That's interesting. This... Oh, I see why. So this actually makes up part of this little hinge mechanism. And yeah, I remember seeing this on a circuit diagram last night. That hingey thing, so this board that hinges up, you support it with a tape. So you have a spare Betamax cassette, which then allows you to support that, which is quite amusing. What I'll do is I'll actually remove this screw here. That won't remove. Might have to. God, it's really good quality metal. It doesn't flex or bend or anything. I'm just wondering if there's a way I can jiggle it out. There we go. That's the power supply out, and as fortune would have it, it also means I can collect my screws which are dropped. Perfect. There we go. Right. Let's move this out the way. Then we can take a look at the power supply itself. So I'll just put this under there, under the bench, out the way. There's our power supply module. So it doesn't immediately look like the one in the F1, but seems to be a very similar sort of layout. You've got mains in, you then have rectifier, and then you've got DC out there, so it goes straight into the DC stage. So what we need to do is get inside here. And that's going to be the challenge. And I think I remember vaguely how to do this from the C set from the F1. So what we're going to have to do is, first off, we'll get this board out of the way. There we go, that's that board out of the way. We can also put that to one side. I can test the capacitors on that in a minute. 2 screws on here. Other side, we need to do pretty much the same thing with this board. So unplug the DC out. We need to, can't unplug the DC in, but we can move the board out of the way. And you've got this huge fusible resistor there. So if the capacitors inside this section here, if they're open circuit, this will blow. Probably take this fuse first. But if, like me, you're not an idiot, but if like me you think, oh, a fuse is blown, I want to see what happens now. If you bridge said fuse, this will blow. So all the way through it does try to protect the circuitry, but the one issue is if those capacitors have only partially gone, then there will be enough to trouble the transistors behind this heatsink, and that's when it starts to get expensive, unfortunately. That's when resolution of the issue is suddenly a lot more expensive than it was previously. So this should slide out of the way. I'm just looking in there aren't any screws, so it's quite possible we don't need to remove it, although it might help to have it out the way, just so we can get the board out properly. So let's see if I can split this apart. So it looks like it clips in on the little AC connector. Yeah. Let's see if I can. Just split that apart enough. So at the moment it's there to clamp the wire in place. But ideally I want to move it so I've got the freedom to move this board out of the way. So at the moment it is snagging. It'd be really good if I could get this shield out of the way. Where is that attached? Oh, it's stuck on the side of it. Okay. That'll have to stay where it is in that case. Oops. Not to worry. It does suddenly make it a lot more accessible though, so that's a bonus. Haha! That comes off the power switch. That does actually make that a bit more pliable and free to move, but I do need to get this plug on there out of the way. Let's try a small flat blade. Actually, it might help if I... No, because the action of that clamps it in place, doesn't it? Or does it? Oh, careful. Okay, I think that's helped, because now I have access to actually remove that, and I can do this. Just feed that through. Actually, hang on a minute, I need to feed it through first, so I get a lot of slack coming out like that. So I get a lot of slack on the mains, like that, and that can come up. What I might need to do actually is take the plug off. So let's get the plug off. There we go. There's negative, oh, sorry, neutral and positive. I have to switch over to my DC, from my DC part of the brain to AC. Now I can just feed this out. It's quite nifty. They actually supply you with a flex that's about 5 miles long, which is quite handy. There we are, that's out now. And that means that this should feed out like so. There you go. That's out the way. So I can put that to one side. And we can focus on getting the rest of this out. So if you look at it, the heatsink actually sits inside this panel. So what I should be able to do is undo these 4 screws, and then the whole unit, including the heatsink, should emerge. So remember, that longer one is the centre. I'll put that up there separately. Actually, looking at it, I might need to remove these screws as well. These are directly onto the transistors, I think. So I need to be a little bit wary when I put these back in, just to make sure that I've got all of them back in place, because they generate a lot of heat and they need this heatsink for keeping cool, obviously. It's a nice bit of over-engineering. A lot of other manufacturers would have just left this without any of that. That's very like the that's very like the F1. So you got this aluminium case, you got the heatsink, you got that thermal paste, and then this should, if we've removed all the screws, which I think we have, whoopsie, am I okay? Sorry, that's very camp. Whoopsie. Oh, whoopsie. Right, there we go. And there's a familiar friend, that massive capacitor. And we've got another couple of familiar friends, these little bastards here. Those are the ones that can cause me all manner of misery and pain, because they tend to gloop all over the board. So I'll just remove this. That is stuck on with some of that weird gluey stuff. There we go. And there we are, that's our little module. So I'll just clean all this off because I want to reapply some new stuff. Right, so 350 at 4.7 microfarads. Now, I don't think I have any suitable replacements, but let's have a look. So 350 volts at 4.7 microfarads. So let's have a look. I've got a feeling when I ordered them, I ordered a couple more just in case when I was doing the F1. What are these? These are 220 microfarads at, that's 220 at 63 volts. 1500 at 16 volts, 3300 at 35 volts, 220 at 50. I have a lot of capacitors, but not the ones that I necessarily need, unfortunately. So do the next best thing. Unsolder and check them out. Right, so it's these two we're going to unsolder. They're mounted kind of there, sort of diagonally. So I want to get them out and test them for continuity. And to be honest, if they work, then I will put the machine back into operation. But with a proviso to order in some of those capacitors so that I can get them changed. Really just sort of, you know, an evict on site situation. They'll be fine to test it, but to ensure continued reliability, I will replace them. But if they test out fine, then it'll be fine to test it for the moment. Right, let's get the iron warmed up. Let's find my solder sucker, which seems to have gone on a journey of discovery somewhere. There it is. Let's get my solder. We've got everything we need. Right, need to wet the sponge. I'll be back shortly. Right, here we go. So it's these two here. There we go. Actually looks okay. Let's grab the tester and give it a test. So it should be 4.7 microfarads at 350 volts. Uh, 4708 nanofarads, ESR 0.88 ohms. I think that's correct actually. Yeah, that's actually within spec. I'm not totally surprised because of the condition of the machine as a whole, but it is good to see that that one's okay. We'll take this other one out and we'll test that out of circuit as well. And if they both seem okay, we'll put them back into operation. So we've got this one now. Also, it's not going to do any harm at all to get these out and back in again. There we go. Not certain about this one, it doesn't seem to have melted at all, or has it? I'm just imagining. That's interesting, no, it hasn't melted. That's better. That one's also looking pretty sharp as well. VLOS, sorry, ESR 0.83 ohms, that's in good shape. That's in very good shape. And I think that's down to how this machine's been stored. To be honest with you, it's been stored well. And that seems to be showing. So I'm going to put both of these back in operation, remembering positive and negative. So if we look on the board, positive, negative. So we've got negative here. So that goes this way round into positive. There we are. Now, because I have taken them out, they're probably more liable to fall out more easily, so I'll just rest a screwdriver under there just to keep it in place. Also, having some new solder on it is going to do them the world of good. Fiddlesticks, that fell through just as I was soldering it, so let's try that again. Just warm that up, and there we go. Perfect. That holds it in place. Double check your negative and positive, because once this is back together it will be a pain in the bottom to open it up again. And for those of you with the service diagram, this is C613 and C612 on board M. I have the circuit diagram, but it's not in paper form, and because these are so similar to the F1 in terms of layout, then it's relatively easy to get your head around it. So you can see this is the hot side, primary. That's the less hot side, secondary. In other words, you got your transformer here that's stepping everything down for output to that little distribution board. So this little fella here. So next capacitor, which was testing very nicely. Remembering negative orientation and positive orientation. So negative, whoops, negative towards the back, positive toward the front. That definitely will need a screwdriver propped under to support it, because that is just dying to fall out. And then we go There's one. And two. Perfect. Looking fine to me. Just check there's nothing touching the other board, or the other track rather. They look fine. They're both back in. They're both back into operation. These two smaller ones, 16 volts at 1000 microfarads. They look okay. I don't think they get anywhere near as hot, to be honest with you. I'll see if I can test an in-circuit. Won't be surprised if I can't, but it's worth a go. So, where are we? These two, so we'll start off with this one. Yeah, that's fine. Also fine. It's coming up quite high on the reading, but the ESR's low, so. And also that higher reading may be because they're still in circuit, so I'm not going to get too upset about that, to be honest with you, because the rest of it seems to be fine. Next thing I'm going to do is put all of this back together again. So this will be going back inside here, basically in like that. With this on. And the reason why you want this in place is because metal, circuit board, contact points, metal equals massive short circuit and tears before bedtime. So let's see if I can slide this back in. Exactly the same story as the F1. It's just there is less on this board, and it's been put out to several different boards, like this one, which is the N distribution, and the other one, which is the mains board. So you're actually on the mains board in the F1, you just have this section, and then you've got the rectifier actually on what would be in this little cabinet inside the F1. So you've basically got all of that except that and that inside the F1 on a single board. That would actually technically come up there, actually. So that's back in, and thankfully I kept the paste out from earlier. Or did I? Did I put it back in the drawer? So I touched up the heatsink heat paste on the 9300. Where did I put it? Let's have a look. So just bear with me one moment and I'll just find said paste. So I've put a bit of it on there and trial mounted it, so I want to make sure you've got full coverage across all of it. Looks like I have, so we'll go back in for the proper mount now. There we go. Like so. And you will see it splodging out of the screw holes, which is absolutely fine. I can now put this on to keep it in its place, so this will go through there like so, and then you've got this which just seems to come out. Now there is a way that will come out, and I can't remember exactly how. I think I might have this the wrong way round as well, so let's think about this. You've got these here, so that will come on into there like so. Oh, I see. Yeah, you've got, comes out the centre and you've got this little hump here that acts as the channel. So that comes up and in pretty much. It'll go through the plastic shielding that I stupidly destroyed. So let's make sure that I do have entry point into there, unless I've got to go behind it like so. It seems a bit weird, but then this one through here is obviously, so that goes through there. I'll just do it from this side, so that comes out there, that goes there, and then that under here, and down and in. This obviously goes under there like that, and like so. There we go. That is very much needed because that acts as my barrier between the mains board and the rest of the deck. Right, that's now in place, so I should be able to screw this back in. By screwing this in, it should just pull the whole thing in and closed like that. There we go. That quite literally just does that. There. Let's just wipe that clean. And there you go. Now let's turn my attention to this side. So we need that heatsink and thermal paste. So it looks like there is a locating point on it, which I think I've covered. Or is it there? Yeah, there it is. So that is there. That's the locating point. There's a little nub on there. You got the 3 screws there. So 1, 2, 3. Little nub there. That should go in like so. Okay. How is this screwed in? That's the other question I've got. Right, once I fiddle with this, I'll just pause the recording. So I'll show you what I'm doing. I've taken the heatsink off and I'm just finding the holes here so that when I put the heatsink back on, I've got a clearer point to go into. I need to do it with each one, you see. There we go. And I think there's one over here. Yeah, there's 2 over there actually. Is there one here as well? Yeah, there is. Okay. So let's see how many of these longer ones I've got. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 on there, and then you've got the outer bracket, which is going to mount one of them. I think it's, yeah, I'll work it out in a moment. Right, let's put this back on. So we've got our little locating dowel. Let's just spread that over a bit so we get more even spread. There we go. There's actually two locating dowels. There's one here and one here. So the other one goes in at the end here. I think. Does it? Yes, it does. There we go. There we are. So that's nearly done. So that's the heatsink in place. Give it a clean. Not looking particularly clean at the moment, but I'll clean it off a bit better later. And then we've got another couple of screws which go into here. I think they're going to be shorter. Yep, so they're going to be quite a bit shorter. That is, of course, if I can find where they're supposed to go. Right, I think that's getting somewhere. No, it isn't. Pretty certain I'm right on there. Oh, hang on a minute. I think I've realised what I've done. I've got a feeling that this needs to be back on. So it goes like that. Now it should work. So you've got this one, longer one, into there. Like so. There we are. And then you've got shorter ones here. And up here. And I seem to remember, for initially it was just a single one in there. There. Stuff does get everywhere. That's one of the downsides of it, to be honest with you. It does seem to get absolutely all over the place. Alright, I'll give that a proper clean. I'll probably need some tissue to do that properly. Right, let's focus on getting our little power supply board back in now. So we can bring that back over. There it is. There it is, so we can bring that back over and we can pop that back in to here. Actually, before we do that, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll feed the 5 mile long flex into here. Good that Sony did provide such a long flex, because it gives you the choice of where you mount your deck. You can have it right next to the telly, or you can have it about 5 miles away in one of the other properties that you own, which if you had one of these decks in the 80s, it is quite possible that you did have another property, perhaps a holiday home. I'm only joking, but you never know. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get this in place. So that comes through. This will go like that and down like so. Then we can plug our DC connector back in. There's only one way it will go. That's the DC connector in. Now we can start reattaching this board. It is finicky, but there's something really nicely designed about it as well. There's some really nice design touches. It's a finicky board or module to get out and dismantle, but the fact that it is contained in this one unit is what's really sort of rather nice about it as well, to be honest with you. Just realised I think I've used the wrong screws on those other 3. So let's just put this back in. So screw wise, it doesn't use this sort of quite fine thread, it uses coarser thread, like one of these. That's better, that goes in better as well. Then we got, I think this one needs to come out. That's all of them, I think. Now we just need to put our mains lead thing back on. There we go. I think is that way around. I'll squeeze together. And ultimately go back into here. Now, if you were rebellious, you could get away with running it without this, but if you tugged on the mains cable, you'll end up damaging the board inside. And that's one of the reasons why I have these in place. You see, it sort of pinches the cable quite nicely in there. And then you close it down. Using some pliers. Ideally need smaller pliers really to do this. And then you go and push it into the hole. And that keeps it in place. Right, come on fella. There you want to go in. So I'm going to struggle with this, and I'll be back shortly. There we go. After actually no swearing whatsoever. That just well, I did. I clamped it like that with the pliers, and then using this screwdriver, just plopped it in, and in it went. And there you go, all done. The next one is this board here. So this one actually mounts conveniently onto here, so it's got a couple of dowels on the back here that goes onto, and you've got your earthing strap there, so don't forget that. That's going to need more of the jaggedy edge little screws, or the jaggedy thread rather. So we'll need that onto there and into there. There we go. This is going to need a couple of these little black ones, I think. There we go. And I should have one more somewhere. Not to worry, I will locate another one for that. Then you got a couple more onto here. Like so. There we go. And there. Then once that's on, we can actually plug this in without it being in the machine, and then we can put a little power connector back on. So power connector, it just goes on like so, or power button rather. And we're now at a point where we can reintroduce this to the main deck. Now, something else I remember is we've got a little cable tie just to tie this back down. So I'll just go and grab a cable tie of suitable size and put that back in place. Right, there we are. So that goes, I think that went up there, down and around. It just holds that out the way. There we go. And all I need to do now is just clear, quite literally clear the decks a little bit, so I can move the soldering iron out of the way. So we won't be needing that again today. Screwdriver kit I can put to one side. Excuse me. Let's grab various screws and things, just put them where I can see them all. And I think I've just realised where that other screw went from here, the mounting plate. When I took this out, something fell out, and that seems to have vanished somewhere on the floor. So I will need to grab another screw from my collection, but because it's just for this panel, and this panel's already held in with about 500 screws, it's not going to miss it much. The important things is that the heatsink has got all the screws in. For me, that's the most important aspect. This back plate, yeah, good. It's attached. It doesn't have all the screws. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And to be honest, I'm going to be inside this again at some point in the near future when I come to replace the those two capacitors. Arguably, I don't need to replace them, but best practice is to get a shot of them, because they're going to be, at this point, they're nearly 40 years old. In fact, they are 40 years old. And no matter what sort of condition the machine is in, they are a known bad failure point of the unit. So, and the thing is, if they fail, they not only take out the PSU, they take out a lot of other stuff inside the PSU, which is a lot more expensive than capacitors. Basically, those various transistors that we've got in there. Anyway, this goes in, if I remember rightly, like so. Not forgetting our little hingy thing that we have to get back in. Might be better if I come down and in like so. There we are. It actually works surprisingly well. Right, let's get these reconnected. So we've got this big one here. Then you've got black. And then you've got 3, a 4, and several other sizes. So that's a 4. I think goes on to, oh, that's on the end. There you are. There's a 3 there, and then you've got these two. So you've got a 5, which is this one, and a 6, which is this one. Thankfully, they're all the same colour. They all have different numbers of pins. That makes things a lot easier getting this in. Right, now we've got these finicky screws. So we've got these little ones that attach the power supply to the rear panel. And might be better there. Okay, let me fight with this off camera. So we got it back in. Everything is screwed back in place. And I'm just going to quickly rewire the plug. And once I've done that, we can actually have a go at powering it up and playing a tape and testing it. So that'll be quite interesting. Try and get this plug sorted out. So let me do this plug off camera and then we'll be ready for the power up. Right, we're ready for the power up. So far so good. Where is my test cassette? It's around somewhere. Is it down by Douglas? No, it's not down by Douglas. Hello, Douglas. Is it over here? No, that's really annoying. I literally just had it just now. Right, let me find my cassette. Okay, I've got the cassette. Oh my god, that's cool. I've never knew it went like that. That's really cool. Alright, let's do counter. Okay. Alright then. Oh. Okay. Right, I better get that lid off. It's starting to chew that tape. Right, bear with me. I knew I was premature putting that lid back on. Right, looking at it, it looks like the tape is actually still laced up. So I'm going to flip this little board out of the way. I think this is a head amp board. But thankfully, like a lot of stuff in this machine, it's on nice little sort of pivoty things. So I should be able to pivot this whole setup up and out of the way, like so. There you go, yeah, you can see the tape is there. So the tape is pulled back in, but the real motor hasn't actuated, so let's carefully take this out. So just avoid crimpling it too much, just do that and let's pick it up and over. There we are. There we go. So thankfully this is right at the beginning of this particular cassette, and this isn't a film that I particularly enjoy, so let's see what it does. So that works. Head spins up, but no real rotation. And then when you try to eject it, it leaves the cassette unreeled up, or unreeled rather. Hang on a minute, sorry, let me just try and... So there's no supply to the reel motors. I think that might be a common issue, and I will have a look in a second to see what it could be. Right, can we fake the tape going in? Yes, you can. Right, so that's there and there. Right, so that's where I think we'll leave it today. We know that we do have a problem with reel rotation. I need to look up on what that could be, and hopefully we'll be able to get this going. Otherwise, we won't be able to get it going. Quite simple as that. Anyway, if you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care. Thanks for watching.